Hi, it's Rory from the YouTube channel Counselling Resource, and today I'm with
Bob Cook from TA Therapy, the founder of the Manchester Institute for Psychotherapy.
And today I'm going to engage with Bob in a live supervision piece.
Yes.
Now, for obvious reasons, we're not going to bring clients, but I want to take this opportunity, and I'm really glad of this opportunity, Bob, to explore a little bit of what I call the phenomenological approach of my modality. And I want to kind of work with the first principles of where it comes from, and just to reinforce something I've been reading. So I'd like to read you a piece from this.
Sure. Can I just frame the supervision?
Yes, certainly.
I've got the ideas. If you could tell me a little bit, just a moment, how long have you been practicing as a counsellor?
About 8 years now.
8 years?
Yes.
So, wow, you're a pretty experienced counsellor then.
Well, you know, always moving forward in experience, yes.
Yeah, always moving forward.
Yes.
So I've got a frame now in terms of how long you've been practicing. And the other thing, in terms of just setting a goal and a focus, what would you like to achieve from the supervision time we've got? So, for example, you might want to just explore and talk about some of your ideas. You might want something more specific. So tell me, in the sort of 10 minutes time we've got,
Sure.
what you would like to achieve.
I think I'd like to achieve clarity.
Clarity.
There's this idea that I've been working with, that I've been labouring under, and that I'm at the edge of understanding it and it being more meaningful to me. But I'd like to compound that meaning, if that makes any sense.
That makes sense.
To find out really what it means.
Okay, so this is really about clarity.
Yes.
It's also about curiosity and passion.
Absolutely.
And it's about really finding the meaning for you in a much more clear way, if you like.
Absolutely.
And then you may be able to put a bridge towards your thinking in terms of your clients.
Yes.
And how you work.
And also, I guess, in a way, being able to transmit that in my teaching practice.
Yeah.
To be able to transmit more of the core values of the therapeutic model, the meta model that I teach as well as practice.
So this is also talking about how you can bring your thoughts, your passions into the teaching.
Absolutely.
Of counselling, which then your students can go away and learn from.
Absolutely.
Fine, I'm clear in terms of that. So let's go ahead and let's explore some of this.
Okay, well, I'm a student of Carl Rogers, and I don't think he needs any explanation. He's well known in the world of therapy. And I'm a student of him. I spend time that I have, scholarly time that I get in my teaching practice, to learn more about him and the techniques that he used and his philosophy, so that I can transmit that idea, not just on a kind of mechanical level to the learners, but also on a level of passion and awareness level. And I came across a quote from one of Rogers' students called John Schilling.
John
Schilling. John Schilling. It's
Schilling.
Schilling. John Schilling. And I want to read it to you because I just found it engaging and almost hypnotic. That's where
I'd love to hear that.
Yes. So if I've got it in a book. I've got a bookmark here. Now, John Schilling was a well-known psychotherapist. That's his words. And he wrote his principles down of his practice and his life, and he called it his 7 or 8 principles.
Oh, wow,
but there's one that really engaged me to the point of kind of obsession, Bob. and I guess that's what
So you were really impacted?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I'm going to read it to you. Now, the quote comes from, it's a kind of the bridge quote from a philosopher called Merleau-Ponty in 1956, who was the originator of phenomenology, which is the philosophical view, along with Kant, of experience being the highest authority. And this was Rogers' reason for existence. He trusted in his experience.
Yes, that's right.
And in this piece, which I'm going to read you, he paraphrases Merleau-Ponty. Schilling paraphrases Ponty, and it's this that's kind of engaging. And I'll read it directly to camera. Everyone knows everything. This is not a theory of knowledge. It is that you, we know everything about ourselves. There may be defences. denials, cover-ups, secrets, faults and interferences and overloads in memory. But we know we are the ultimate source.
Yeah. Now tell me, straight off the top of your head, what is the impact of those words on your soul?
It's like a huge bell ringing.
A huge bell.
A huge bell. A large, low frequency bell that resonates my very existence.
Wow, you said that with such passion.
Absolutely.
A real bell that resonates with your very existence for living. So, tell me a little bit more about that. That sentence construction.
Well, do I think or do I feel? I think it's a mixture of two, and I can't separate them at this point. This idea that intrinsically we know our own truths, that we know them as well as we know anything else, but we produce defences, masks, cover-ups, lapses of memories. And I guess as a counsellor, and I'm sure as a teacher, one of the things that we try to uncover is the ultimate existential truth of our existences.
Right.
And it just summed up in a nifty sentence everything I've been studying towards. This notion that it is there, but that clarity of thought and that pureness of spirit takes a lot of getting to.
Right, but I think you were there.
Well, thank you.
Let me explain what I mean by that. Okay. Because there's not just you there, there's me. So in other words, what impacted me about what you just said there is the idea that of a we, not just an I.
Yes.
That we, both of us, we, or in your sense, you and your students, or you and your clients, that together there could be a co-creation of ideas, experience, feelings, and that together you can create a space so the person and yourself has the opportunity to find your own truth.
Yes.
And there's nothing more powerful than that.
I mean, I agree. I think.
My thoughts.
Yes. I mean.
That was quite clear.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's the goal of living. It's the old, the life. A life isn't lived if it's not worth exploring. The unexplored life is not worth living. I think that was Aristotle, possibly. And this notion of stripping away the pretence, stripping away, the kind of artifices that humans tend to create, and coming back to that who we really are.
Yeah.
It's just a huge.
Who we really are.
Yes.
Yeah. Not only who we really are myself, but who we really are together.
Yes. 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 Not just my truth, but yours as well. Yeah.
That's right. That's what I took from that. When that reading, it was a concentration on we. Because in many ways, we're only really ourselves when we're with another, as well as ourselves. So, for example, what I mean by that is that, it's like we know who we are primarily, and kids certainly learn this way, by knowing who we're not. And we can only really get there, I think, in interaction with another.
It's an interesting position. I partly agree with that. My other strong existential view is that we're constantly alone, and it's from these words, this idea of being used and getting used to that existential loneliness, and accepting it in self.
So in terms of clarity, you seem very clear about that.
I'm clearer now. I'm clear. Yes. It's becoming clear. The search that I'm undergoing, this consistent labour of searching is to be able to, at some level, accept that loneliness of existence, as Sartre, the philosopher, talks about, the existential philosophers talk about.
Yeah, that's very clear.
Yes.
So while you stay with that clarity moment, if you think of that in terms of your teaching, the fact that that bit you come clear upon, that we're essentially alone, what does that sentence say in terms of your work with your students and then with your clients?
Well, I think, or do I feel? I think it's feel. I think it's feel more than think. I separate the two.
Okay.
But my feeling is that once that's been harnessed, that existential aloneness, that point can be reach out to other people and make connections to make life more bearable, more lovable, more livable, to share that short time of existence and who you are. Nietzsche talks about friendship as being known and knowing other people, to develop that idea, build those dialogues, build those relationships that are meaningful and important, not just in my life, but in my clients' lives and my learners' lives. If that doesn't sound too grand.
No, that sounds very important.
It is.
And very important to you. And I think you're saying, you didn't say it directly, but I think you're saying important to your students to know, and then important for the clients of those students to know.
Absolutely.
And if they, and that sort of really coming to accept the essence of loneliness or aloneness means they can then reach out to others. Now, are you saying to me that you that one of the issues here is that in your teachings, how do you get that over to people?
Yes, it's a tricky, existentialism in itself is a tricky concept.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes, it's a tricky concept. And I guess as
well, I've got the response. Quite a lot. So I realise I've just come in there.
Yes.
Stopped you going. But anyway, I did come in, so I'm going to say it.
Okay.
My response is that the best way that you're going to get this clarity over is just being yourself in that alone moment.
Yes.
With those students. Just by being yourself in that authentic process, stripped down, will model to them at a sort of subliminal level anyway what you mean. But of course, being yourself will impact with them more than any techniques or contact or intellectual discussion.
And certainly, if I look back over my teaching practice, and I'm kind of aware that some of my ex-learners may be watching this, but I'm not afraid of what I'm going to say. I've no fear in what I'm going to say.
I hear you now.
I think, and this is think now, that I've worked on that considerably through the years that I've taught at practice level. And I think my learners appreciate that.
Good.
You know, the fact that, you know, as Rogers famously said, I don't have to be consistent. I have to be the thoughts and feelings that run through me at any moment. And certainly some of my learners who are watching this would wholeheartedly agree that there's a change in tempo, a change in me from moment to moment. But I think that's who I am.
You are?
Yeah.
Aloneness and all?
Yes.
And surely that's the essence of being a counsellor or a psychotherapist, that you can take the essence of yourself into the counselling room. And what a better way to teach that?
Yes.
Than modelling that.
Absolutely.
So I feel quite clear in that image you just talked about there, and you sound very clear yourself. So what we had as a contract of goal at the beginning was that you wanted to be more clear in terms of your thinking and in terms of the issues with your students. I was just wondering, A, have you achieved that, and B, what in fact you did get out of this quarter now with that?
Well, the humanistic interaction, is wonderful. Bob. That two souls travelling along our life journey, meeting at this level.
Yeah.
They call it relational depth, they call it all sorts of things, but it's just a human connection. So first of all, I'll take away that. And also I think that my focus, my vision has sharpened. It's not completely as sharp, and it may never be as sharp as I want it to be, because the process of understanding this existential aloneness is probably a lifetime's work, and it will be different at different stages in life. But I'm grateful, and I really do mean that, for the opportunity to speak. And I've never spoken to this about anybody else in any great depth, so the opportunity to speak about it. So thank you.
Yeah, and it's fine. I have one thing to say besides this. There's a question to you, and that is, do you think, and I don't know if you even have thought about this anyway, but I'm sure you have reflected on this. I tell you what, I'll go with a statement rather than a question.
Okay.
This is my statement. I believe that all your students and all your clients of your students will really understand what aloneness means. So just by you talking about it, being there authentically in the moment, talking about how you feel, they will at some levels understand that. And I think that's a really, really important statement for me, because I want to say to you, it isn't about intellectually, from a textbook talking about aloneness, but by just being there in the moment, talking like you've just talked about, is something they will understand. And I, with you, think there's nothing more adjectively important and experientially important than this feeling in terms of connection as two people identifying with what I think is a universal experience.
Yes, and I think that people engage in that at different levels.
Well, that's the bit. It's at different levels.
It's at different levels, isn't it?
Yeah. But it seems your passion, your clarity, your enthusiasm, your real depth of feelings will certainly be a wonderful instrument to get that over.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing it out. I found it very exciting to talk about and very meaningful.
Yes.
I appreciate that.
Thank you, Bob.
Very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, and there we are. That's the live supervision session with me and Rory Lee Oakes. And in a minute, I just want to say a few words about what I saw as the major key issues there, and talk about my philosophy and model of supervision. Okay, well, let's just talk about my philosophy. I see supervision primarily as an adult to adult learning process. Not like therapy, which often has a parent to child focus. This is the professional adults talking about professional whole set of techniques and ideas in a different discipline. So let's go with some of my ideas in this piece of work. What you saw right at the beginning was me attend to the professional developmental focus of this piece of work. In other words, you heard me say, and tell me, how long have you been a professional? So I've got some information there immediately. He said 8 years, and so that gave me some indication of what level I could address this supervision at. Now, this is an experienced person, so we were able to talk about some of the more process-oriented dialogue, not have you got supervision right or have you got supervision wrong, or what, whether there's certain techniques I should be doing or shouldn't be doing. This was much more a process dialogue, almost at one level, two colleagues talking to each other. So by actually really buttonholing, this is an experienced counsellor, we could then tailor, if you like, the interventions and the co-creation of the supervision that would follow. So, checking out the professional developmental level of the supervisee is crucial, I think, to an effective supervisory process. Number 2, get a contract, get a goal, get a focus, get a framework for the supervision. Now, you saw me do that. Rory was about to go off and talk about the passion of what he wanted to bring. Just for a moment, and I hope I did it tactfully, I asked him to come back and asked him, what is the goal of the supervision? What's the framework? And more importantly, what will he have achieved from the 20 minutes that we have in supervision? And I then tailored it even more directly. How would he then take it back? How would it have been useful to what he learned for his students and for his students' clients? So we got a framework, a contract. The contract was clarity. We related it back to his teaching environment, and also the subset that we were going to explore this. This wasn't about a behavioural goal particularly. This was about exploring clarity. I mean, there was, if you want a more specific goal, of more clarity. But the idea is the same. Contracts. Even if it's a soft contract, what I mean by that is an exploring contract, or a harder contract. What I mean by that is a behavioural contract. But at least we've got a goal and a framework. So here's 2 things. First, check up on the professional developmental level of the supervisee. Second, get a contract. Let's look at the third part of this model. In your head, or you might even share it with the supervisee, I want you to think, what are the key issues that the supervisee is bringing? So, what were the key issues? Well, let me tell you what I think some of the key issues were. The key issue of someone coming and having the time to talk about professional uncertainties, professional curiosities, professional wanderings to another professional who will understand some of the very nuances that we're talking about in this profession. To be able to bring some of his feelings, some of his deep, and in this case, feelings I think about the importance of aloneness and the corollary to that, to be understood and met in his aloneness. Okay, that's one key issue. To be able to talk with another human, and in this case a human who understands him at one level in terms of the professional encounter, which he then can, how he can bring that human encounter into his teachings. So the key issue to be met, to be understood, to share the space, to share curiosity were one key issue. Another key issue I was thinking was about, and we didn't touch it that much, but it was on the area of what is right and what is wrong, and what is perfect and what's not perfect. What you can just share in terms of process, in terms of just being rather than doing, would be another key issue I saw in this. And then of course the final thing I'd like you to consider in any supervision would be the idea of parallel process. Now, parallel process is the idea of what gets discussed here might have a parallel back and in this case, instead of the teaching environment, or parallel process the other way round, what could be discussed with these students having a parallel up here. And what I saw as a parallel process here was that by talking with me and me modelling back authentically in the moment, that there was an impact, that I was impacted by what Rory was bringing. That to me, he was very clear. To me, that his feelings and his words impacted my soul, I think, is probably the parallel process in how he wants to be impacted and be able to impact the students that he teaches. So in the model, in my disclosure of myself and some of my thoughts, my excitement, my curiosity, how he impacted me, gives a model and a framework of how he can be back with his students. So, in terms of the supervision and things to look for in this model, as I said, contracting, parallel process, looking at key issues, and finding out the professional level of the supervisee will all make for a model of effective supervision. So, I hope you found this useful, looking at a piece of life supervision and looking at some of my ideas behind the supervision, so you could discuss it away from here. So thank you for listening, and hopefully you'll come to this internet YouTube channel again. Take care, bye bye, and thank you, Rory, for your
thank you, Bob.
your participation again. Bye bye.
Thank you for watching.